Very good morning to you. This is Sunrise. Top stories today: failed fire safety tests on tower blocks across the country. The government says 34 high-rise buildings in 17 local authorities have failed the tests as the thousands evacuated in North London spend a second night in temporary accommodation. More pressure for Theresa May as the Archbishop of Canterbury calls for a cross-party commission to deal with Brexit. And we're not dinosaurs. The leader of the DUP in Westminster says critics of the party shouldn't fear its influence on the government.
Also this morning on Sunrise, Moscow's pin-up pensioners, the modelling agency helping to shake up the conservative world of Russian fashion. And in sport, after defeat to the All Blacks, the Lions consider their options for Tuesday's tour match.
Well, thanks for joining us on Sunrise this morning. We're starting with the government saying now that 34 high-rise towers in 17 local authorities across the country have failed fire cladding safety tests. The Communities Secretary, Sajid Javid, made the announcement as around 3,000 residents of the Chalcots estate in North London spent a second night in temporary accommodation after 4 towers were evacuated on Friday evening. Mr Javid praised the residents' response to the evacuation, but criticism of Camden Council's handling of this continues, and some residents are still refusing to leave their homes. Laura Bundock reports.
Carrying bags and belongings, residents from the evacuated towers gradually moved out.
Areas nationwide that have failed these safety tests, and they're all going to have to be made safe over the next few weeks, and people are saying it could take 6 to 8 weeks to make those tower blocks safe. So that is the sort of time scale we're looking at here.
OK, Phil, thank you.
The Archbishop of Canterbury has added to the pressure on the Prime Minister, calling on Theresa May to set up a cross-party commission to advise her on Brexit.
Justin Welby's compared the current situation to the 2 world wars when Britain was run by coalitions and says a cross-party approach would take some of what he calls the poison out of the debate.
Well, let's cross live now to Westminster and our correspondent Charlotte Lomas, and this is likely to cause a bit of a stir, especially amongst Conservatives.
It is. It's likely to get some backs up in the Tories this morning as they read the article that has been written by the Archbishop of Canterbury in the Mail of Sunday, where Brexit, and of course comes ahead of a crucial week for the Prime Minister with the Thursday's common vote on the Queen's speech. OK,
Charlotte, thanks very much for that.
Now, the DUP's leader in Westminster says those who hold different views on social issues like gay marriage and abortion have no reason to fear the party's influence on government.
Nigel Dodds, who's been negotiating a confidence and supply agreement with Downing Street, had told Sky News he and his colleagues had been misrepresented as dinosaurs. He's been speaking to our Ireland correspondent David Blevins.
With the vote on the Queen's speech looming, all eyes were back on the kingmakers. David Blevins, Sky News in Belfast.
Well, Sophie Ridge on Sunday is on at 10 o'clock this morning, of course, and this week Sophie is joined by the former Chancellor Ken Clarke, now Father of the House, International Development Secretary Priti Patel, Labour MP Stella Creasy and Labour peer Shami Chakrabarti.
There are fears this morning that government ministers and MPs could be open to blackmail after a cyber attack on Parliament. The National Cyber Security Centre and National Crime Agency are investigating the attack, which is described as a sustained and determined bid to break into the email accounts of MPs, peers and their staff.
At least 100 people have been killed in an oil tanker explosion in Pakistan. Officials say the tanker overturned on a highway near Bahawalpur and exploded as people tried to collect the spilled oil.
UNICEF and the World Health Organization say Yemen has been hit by the worst cholera epidemic in the world. More than 1,300 people have died in the last 2 months, with 200,000 cases in total. The UN says the country's health, water and sanitation systems are collapsing after 2 years of civil war.
Israel has released footage of its planes hitting targets in Syria in response to 10 projectiles landing in its territory. They say no one was harmed in the operation, which marks a rare case of Israeli involvement in the Syrian war, which is now in its 7th year.
118 people are still missing after a village in southwest China was buried by a huge landslide. So far, only 3 survivors have been found, but 15 bodies recovered after heavy rain caused the side of a mountain to collapse yesterday morning.
The government has announced that duty-free imports to the UK from developing countries will be maintained after Brexit. 48 countries, including Bangladesh, Haiti and Ethiopia, will continue to benefit from the arrangement on all goods bought by the UK, excluding weapons. Goods worth £20 billion are shipped to the UK from these countries every year. Now here's one for you this morning. The annual World's Ugliest Dog competition has taken place in California. This is a cruel contest. It attracts entries from around the globe, with one of the 14 contestants travelling from Wales. There's a prize of £1,200 for the winner. Why? I have no idea. As well as media appearances in New York.
It's a long way to go, Wales, just to be told that your dog's not too good looking.
I know, and for £1,200, oh dear.
Oh, I think he's rather sweet, isn't he?
Yeah, they each have their own charms. Here's the winner, Neapolitan. A Neapolitan Mastiff, Martha.
Good name.
Oh.
Oh, he's not blessed with the best of looks, is he?
Oh. Dear, but that's just a bad shot. She wowed the judges with her laziness and complete lack of interest, apparently. Yeah. Oh. My producer's just said to me, it sounds like you.
You, I hope, not me.
Yeah. I'm not lazy. I'm just relaxed. That's
well, I think you look better than the dog. Yeah.
Oh, thanks a lot.
We'll hope so, anyway.
I think it's a bit cruel. I do. I think every animal has its own beauty.
Oh, yeah.
But you're a mad cat woman, aren't you?
I'm a cat, a crazy cat woman, yeah.
Yeah.
A lovely British blue cat.
Oh,
like you.
so,
You're
yeah,
obsessed with cats as well.
Oh, love cats, love cats. It's 5 years today since I got my cat.
5 years. Oh, I've had mine 3 years,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't live without her.
So, no, quite right too. Let's have a look at the papers for you this morning. Start the Observer. It reports on government proposals to relax fire safety standards in schools are going to be dropped now after the Grenfell Tower fire.
Well, the Sunday Telegraph leads on the Parliament's cyber attack amid fears MPs could be blackmailed.
That's on the front of the Sunday Times as well, which reports hackers are working for a foreign state.
We're looking at the Express. That takes aim at Jeremy Corbyn for speaking at Glastonbury instead of attending Armed Forces Day parades.
Mail on Sunday has an interview with Prince Harry. It says he considered ending his royal duties.
And Susan Boyle is reportedly being terrorised by a gang of teenagers. That's all in the Sunday Mirror.
A former blogger is capitalising on a gap in Russia's fashion industry by setting up a modelling agency for senior citizens.
In a country that normally associates beauty with youth, the company already has more clients than models, the youngest of which is in her 60s. Our Russia correspondent John Sparks has this report.
Start with the hair, follow with the makeup. The clothes and accessories come next.
There's hope for me yet. Stay with us here on Sunrise. Still to come.
Well, let's take a look at the sport now, shall we?
Oh, we're back on. Sorry, apologies. I was away with the fairies there for a moment. Let's have a look at the weather for you today with Russia's next top model, Jo.
Thank you very much, Dina. Good morning to you. Well, the weather today rather unsettled, and indeed it's going to stay that way through much of the week. No return of the sunshine for the time being.
A very good morning to you. This is Sunrise. Coming up, about 10 minutes or so, we'll take you through the morning papers with writer and columnist Christina Patterson and radio's very own James Well, who's very chilled out this morning. There he is, relaxed, in the signature waistcoat. So we'll chat to those very shortly. First for you this morning, the government says 34 high-rise towers in 17 local authorities across the country have failed fire cladding safety tests. The Communities Secretary Sajid Javid made the announcement as around 3,000 people from the Cholcott estate in North London spent a second night in temporary accommodation after 4 towers were evacuated on Friday evening. And Mr Javid praised the people's response to the evacuation, but criticism of Camden Council's handling of the situation continues, and some people are still refusing to leave their homes. Laura Bundock reports.
Carrying bags and belongings, residents from the evacuated towers gradually moved out as official teams from the council moved in.
Weeks.
OK, Phil, for now, thank you.
Now, the Archbishop of Canterbury has added to the growing pressure on Theresa May by calling for the government to set up a cross-party commission to advise her on Brexit. Well, Justin Welby compared the current situation to the two world wars when Britain was run by coalitions and says a cross-party approach would take some of what he calls the position out of the debate.
Now, the DUP's leader in Westminster says those who hold different views on social issues like gay marriage and abortion have no reason to fear the party's influence on government. Nigel Dodds, who's been negotiating a confidence and supply agreement with Downing Street, told Sky News he and his colleagues have been misrepresented.
Those are cultural and social issues, but they're devolved issues which will be dealt with at a local level. They will not intrude, and we have never intruded them in terms of the Westminster Parliament or the rest of the United Kingdom. So nobody has anything to worry about in that.
There appears this morning that government ministers and MPs could be open to blackmail after a cyber attack on Parliament. The National Cyber Security Centre and National Crime Agency are investigating the attack, which is described as a sustained and determined bid to break into the email accounts of MPs, peers and their staff.
More than 120 people have been killed in an oil tanker explosion in Pakistan. Officials say the tanker overturned on a highway near Bahawalpur and exploded as people tried to collect the leaking oil. Another 80 people were injured.
UNICEF and the World Health Organization say Yemen has been hit by the worst cholera epidemic in the world. More than 1,300 people have died in the last 2 months, with 200,000 cases in total. The UN says the country's health, water and sanitation systems are collapsing after 2 years of civil war.
Israel has released footage of its planes hitting targets in Syria in response to 10 projectiles landing in its territory. They say no one was harmed in the operation. It marks a rare case of Israeli involvement in the Syrian civil war, which is now in its 7th year.
One of the most closely fought seats in this month's general election was Hastings, where the Home Secretary Amber Rudd retained her seat, but only after 3 recounts.
Now, Hastings' population is made up of a diverse demographic, including young students, middle-class London commuters and a large fishing population. Sophie Ridge has been finding out how the seaside town views Brexit and the election results.
Hastings is one of the UK's oldest fishing ports. Important dividing line in British politics today. Sophie Ridge, Sky News.
Well, Sophie Ridge on Sunday follows Sunrise this morning. This week, Sophie's joined by former Chancellor Ken Clarke, International Development Secretary Priti Patel, Labour MP Stella Creasy and Labour peer Shami Chakrabarti. A great line up there. That's all after Sunrise.
Bad news for you this morning, I'm afraid. James Whale is here. Along with writer Christina Patterson to take us through the papers.
You'll regret that, you know that, don't you?
I know I will.
Yeah, you'll regret
I know I will, but
yeah.
I just thought I may as well wind you up to start with, and then we'll see where we end up.
You don't need to. You really don't need to.
James, let's kick off with you in the Sun on Sunday.
OK. Funnily enough, I had a guy I know rang me yesterday, said, I've just been told to leave, yesterday, I think, yeah, Friday night, wasn't it, when they were asked to leave these towers.
Right.
And I'm going to interview him on my radio show a little later. He's most upset. They've just 40,000 could be told to get out of their town. This is just a knee-jerk reaction, a ridiculously stupid idea. I saw the leader of Camden Council, whose name escapes me now.
Georgia Gould.
That's her. And she's apparently the darling of the left now. But this is just a stupid, idiotic move. Telling people, quite elderly people, in fact, you were interviewing one of them the other day.
But do you not think they need to focus on safety now?
No, I don't, because there hasn't been a tragedy, thank goodness, like that, and hopefully everybody's got their eye on it. And yes, they have to improve those tower blocks, but you don't kick people out at 8 o'clock at night without any warning. People have children asleep.
Well, they do, but the problem was, and do you know what? I held a similar view when I saw the news on Friday night. But after talking to her yesterday, she said, the fire brigade said, you've got to go. And she said, can we not have fire engines outside for the night? And they said, no, you've got to go. Now, legally, what option does she have? Because she'd have no indemnity.
I disagree. No, because who checked the fire safety on those properties? And for the last, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, but not the fire service.
I bet they do.
No,
it's not.
It's a complete mess, this whole thing, because my bloke's an architect, and so we've had endless, incredibly boring discussions about, health and regulations and blah, blah, blah. It's a botch. It's a complete botch. And so, there is a view that government regulations said one thing, the building regulations said another. Kensington and Chelsea are actually extremely fierce in their regulations, so it's not clear whose fault, if anyone's. I mean, clearly it's somebody's fault. This is. It's very, very complicated. But the fact is that at the moment, a lot of people in this country are living in blocks which are actually extremely unsafe. Now, if I were in a block, I probably wouldn't want to go and move somewhere straight away. But it takes any old, given how many copycat so-called terrorist killings we've had recently, it would take one nutcase with a match to wreak absolute havoc in some of these tower blocks at the moment. So I think that Georgia Gould from Camden probably has no option. If the fire service have said your people are at risk, she will then be legally responsible if they are burned.
So she's more worried about herself than she is about anything else.
She's worried about the law. She's worried about the law. And she's worried about people's safety.
No.
You don't know, James. You don't know that whether she's worried about herself.
People's faces.
I saw the anguish on her face, actually. I saw the anguish on her face. She's in an awful situation. Nobody wants to evict 82-year-old women.
But even people's pets as well. We were speaking to the RSPCA yesterday. They said they were having to try and find homes for not just dogs and cats, even hedgehogs.
My dogs and I would not have left. You'd have had to drag me out. Those people would have been quite safe, I am absolutely sure. They could have put fire engines outside, and if the fire service were so concerned, then maybe they should have looked at this, or they should have looked at the fire safety years ago.
Well, I think that's a very valid point, but I mean, what became clear yesterday was that the way the fire regulations are checked in these buildings is done in such a haphazard way.
I lived on the 18th floor with two very small children when we started off our married life back in the 70s, a block called Gelston Point, just off the Commercial Road near Watney Street in London. We lived up there on the 18th floor. There was no fire drill, no fire. You didn't think about it in those days, we were in our 20s. No sprinklers, nothing. And quite often you get back and the lift wasn't working, which was a blessing because the lift always smelt like a public toilet.
Yeah.
And you had to walk 18 floors with shopping and two kids. No children should be housed in tower blocks.
I mean, on Thursday, I was actually in Plymouth because they're taking cladding off some of the blocks. And I went up to the top floor and, there's elderly residents up there. And one lady had asthma and she's petrified. She said she couldn't sleep all night. Worrying about it.
I don't think they should. I think tower blocks are not a good way to accommodate people. They're really not. I mean, we've got them and we've got this legacy and we've got housing crisis. So I don't know what you do now unless you knock them down and build new stuff, and then you have to put taxes up to pay for all of this. So
there are great, there are really nice blocks of flats. I can think of a couple in Canary Wharf where the penthouse is worth 10 million quid. It's on the 27th floor. Of course they can be nice, and they're for certain sorts of living.
And the views are good.
And the views are good.
Great.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the front page of the Sunday Times. Christina. Spreadsheet Phil, caretaker PM.
Well, this is interesting. He is apparently being lined up and wants to be lined up as a caretaker PM. The plan is, if they're successful, to get Theresa May out of office pretty shortly, and for so-called Spreadsheet Phil to stand in until the next, until Brexit is through.
Why would they want? I mean, the man who was meant to be the safe pair of hands, who messed up his only budget. So
there isn't clearly no such thing as a safe pair of hands because everybody is clearly a walking disaster at the moment. But I think poor Theresa May's brand is so so tarnished now. She has no power in Europe. She has no power in this country. I feel quite, I mean, I'm not a fan of hers, but I do feel sorry for her. I think she's
Why do you
had
feel sorry for her?
I feel sorry because...
She's useless.
Listen, nobody's perfect. No, she's not good. She's done a spectacularly bad job, but I feel personally sorry for her that a few weeks ago she was 20 points ahead in the polls, and now her reputation has been
done a spectacularly
damaged
bad
forever.
job? She called the election under advice, and it hasn't gone their way. It's not necessarily.
Well, she should have to
fault,
pay
actually.
for that election. That's cost this country something like 200 million quid. It was unnecessary.
Well, she hasn't got 200 million quid, has she? But anyway, my point is that I think probably, given that we've got the most complex negotiations facing this country since the Second World War, we need somebody who actually has an economic brain on their heads, who is not as toxic a brand as Theresa May to spearhead it. I think Spreadsheet Phil would do as good a job as any.
They have the right personality, though, because they have criticised Theresa May for not being...
Well, I think he's more conciliatory. I think the big mistake Theresa made from the beginning was, barging in like a bull in a china shop and being very, very combative about the whole thing. And frankly, if you're going to do negotiating, no, she did. Yes, about Brexit. If you're going to do negotiating, no, you need to build. All negotiation is built on building relationships, and she did not build good relationships, and she didn't understand the complexity of it. And I think he does understand the complexity of it. So now, we just got to do a salvage job, basically, and I think he would do a better salvage job than she would.
I think David Davis should be the man. Much as I disagree with Stephen, as he knows, about Brexit, biggest mistake this country ever made.
I have no view on Brexit. I have no view on Brexit.
I made the same assumption as you on that, James.
I actually, well, he's a journalist, he can't have a view. I actually think David Davis will probably do a much better job. But they've messed it up anyway. So if only we could bring back Margaret Thatcher.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a break. Back with more from these two troublemakers in just a moment. So we're looking at the papers with Christina and with James. Now, are you a sort of a cinnamon or I'm trying to think of another name, a rich red? Or,
oh, we're doing lipstick. I thought we were doing Farage. I was very
No, he changes his mind regularly.
No, we're doing a bit of lippy.
Lippy.
Sunday morning, we've got to do
well, you can see exactly what I am. I always wear the same lipstick.
Pink.
No, it's sort of reddy, pinky. But no, there's a north-south divide, apparently. Oh. And the south of England, people wear redder lipstick. And further north you go, the paler your lipstick is.
That's interesting. I would have thought it would be the other way around.
And you've got relatively pale lipstick on.
And I'm not northern.
No, well, that's you're backing the trend.
I need to spice it up a bit, I think.
I'll go au natural. Yeah, what have you got on?
No, we don't get
lip gloss.
A bit of gloss on it.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
A little bit of gloss. All I've got.
Yes. Yeah.
The question is, how do you make your teeth so white? That's what's so fascinating.
Oh, don't start on that one.
Well, actually, I know lots of northern ladies.
Not normal to have them quite that white. It does sort of startle one in the morning early.
You know northern ladies who wear very red lipstick, do you?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I know more people up north than down south who wear bright lipsticks.
Well, clearly, it's what Donald Trump would call the fake news, then, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, don't even use that phrase.
Yeah.
Joe, honestly.
I know, it's very irritating.
Do you have to wear different sorts of lipstick? I
try and mix it up a bit.
Yes, I wouldn't wear the same one all the time.
No, I wouldn't. In a way,
now I feel I should have some on.
You could have a bit of brown sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes wear brown.
Do they?
Yeah.
Wow.
They did do a male lipstick, like they did the guy liner for your eyes and male nail varnish. Yeah.
Did you try that out?
I tried it all out. If it's available, I'll try it.
Yeah, quite right too.
I think so.
Send the samples to James Well. Get out of Sky News. What's this in the Sunday People about dinners?
Dinners? Which one?
Clooney.
You're talking George Clooney. Well, if you want to make some money, this is what you do. You get George to come round or go to a restaurant or whatever it is and sign a tequila bottle. I get him to sign anything, to be quite honest. And apparently it makes you a fortune. 56 doodles on empties from his own brand, which apparently are going to be sold for huge amounts of money.
Oh.
Could you do that as well?
He hasn't done 56 doodles, it's the actor 56.
Oh, the actor 56, is it? 50. Why do they always? Why do they always insist on putting people's ages in payment? What is journalists' fascination with ages?
Well, I never put any.
Because
Anything to do with George Clooney, isn't it? I went to Lake Como last summer and
with George.
They were oh, I wish. God, no, they were selling this restaurant that he always goes to, so we tried it out. It was a bit disappointing, I must say. Yeah.
Oh. Well, they're not going to put the same effort on for you, to be fair.
No,
so George
didn't.
doodled on 56 tablecloths or anything
He is
like
very handsome, though, may I say. He is extremely handsome.
Well, he's just sold this tequila brand for best part of $1 billion, hasn't he?
Amazing, yeah.
Can you make that much money out of tequila?
Well, and he's got twins now.
Yes.
What's that got to do with
He's got
tequila?
what?
He's going to be a busy man, isn't he?
Twins? Is he?
But he's not doing much acting these days, is he? He's just swanning in.
No, I don't need to anymore, does he?
He's being Amel's...
twins?
I didn't know. I'm not across these things.
He does
On that note, we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Let's get a check on the weather with Joe. Joe, thank you. Stay with us here on Sunrise. Still to come, 34 tower blocks fail fire safety tests as 3,000 people spend a second night in temporary accommodation.